Hey guys, in this month's top 5, we're going to be asking one simple question. Why doesn't this particular book have an adaptation yet? So, what I'm essentially going to be doing in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 books that have not had any sort of adaptation yet, you guys. Meaning they've not had a movie adaptation yet, they've not had a TV adaptation yet, they've just had nothing. Why? Why? So yeah, these are 5 books that I found. And I had to double check and make sure none of these had anything, because there's some books I was going to put on this list, and then when I kind of did a little bit more research, I was like, oh, it already has an adaptation. And yeah, it might not even be an American adaptation. It could be something over in Europe or something over in Asia, and like I've never heard of it having an adaptation. It just has never come here to America for me to consume. But yeah, I did find 5 books that have absolutely no sort of adaptation in whatever country, to the best of my knowledge. At number 5, City of Thieves by David Benioff. Why does this book not have an adaptation yet? Seriously, I love this book. It is a little itty bitty tiny book, very quick and easy to read. And essentially, what's happening in this book, we're following a young teenage man and an army deserter, and they're hired by like I'm trying to think, like a captain or a general, no, a colonel. They're hired by a Soviet colonel, because this takes place in Russia during World War II, under the Nazi siege of Leningrad and whatnot. So we're following, like I said, a young teenage boy and an army deserter, and this Soviet colonel is basically saying, hey, I want you 2 dudes to go and find a dozen eggs, because is it his daughter? I think it's his daughter. His daughter is about to have like a wedding. At all times, like I said, during the Nazi siege of Leningrad, this guy's daughter is going to have a wedding. She needs 12 eggs to make her wedding cake. So he wants this young teenage boy and this army deserter to go hunt down, God knows where, 12 eggs. Because if you don't know anything about the siege of Leningrad, it was pretty rough and brutal and gritty, and food was really scarce and hard to come by, especially like, things that you really needed, like eggs. So where are these 2 dudes going to hunt down these eggs? And it takes them like days and weeks, to try and track down these eggs. And they're traveling all over, Russia and the nearby areas around Leningrad and whatnot. I love this book. It's a coming of age story for this young man, and yet this relationship that he has with this army deserter, and yet the friendship that they form. This unlikely friendship of all things. And it's poignant and nuanced for such a tiny little book, and oddly humorous and comedic in places, considering how serious the subject matter is. It's like David Benioff really throws in some nice, wonderful comedic elements that kind of lighten up the mood and add some much needed levity, and that also helps with this relationship between these 2 guys who have nothing really in common. And I just can't believe this book has not been turned into like a mini series or anything, like on HBO Max or Netflix or something. This would make for a really good, like maybe four or 5 part mini series, I think. At number 4, The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Mayer. Why hasn't this series been adapted into a series? You guys? Seriously. This could easily be something like on the CW network. For real. I can just picture this on the CW network, running for multiple seasons, because this is a multi-series book and whatnot. And what you need to know about the Lunar Chronicles, these are sci-fi fantasy retellings of classic fairy tales. Like this first book here is Cinder. Obviously Cinderella. In this, she's like an android with deep dark secrets. And yeah, other books in the series, you have Scarlet, which is Red Riding Hood, and Winter, which is Snow White, and Cress, that is like Rapunzel. I really just freaking absolutely love what Marissa Mayer has done with this world. Like I said, it's fairy tales with a sci-fi twist. And it's kind of reminiscent to something almost like Star Wars. If Star Wars was like based off of fairy tales or something, you know. It's just so intricate and so well done and so interesting and compelling. It's not your traditional type of fairy tale retelling, you know. There's a lot more things that are just interesting and well done, that you never really kind of feel like you're reading a fairy tale retelling at times. So, like I said, this could easily be a multi-season show on something like the CW or Netflix, whatever your favorite streaming platform is. And I am just so shocked this is yet to be adapted into any sort of series, when all these other book series and, you know, young adult series, they're just being adapted left and right. And it's like, why are people ignoring this? At number 3, The Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simons. Now, this is a trilogy, but for crying out loud, if this first book was the only thing that ever got adapted, I'd be totally happy, because the other 2 books in the series, I do really love and enjoy the second book, but like the third book, I absolutely kind of really hated the third book in this trilogy and wish there had never been a third book. But this first book is my absolute favorite in the entire trilogy, and honestly, you can kind of just read this book by itself. You don't really have a reason that you have to read the other 2 books. I mean, unless you really just want to. But yeah, if you love historical fiction set in Russia, you're going to love this, I think. A really juicy, steamy, sexy romance. And yeah, and I just can't believe this has not been adapted into like a TV series as well. Not a movie. I definitely do not think this would work as a movie, because this book is really long and there's a lot that happens, like a lot of important things that happen. I think this book would work best as a show, you know. And yeah, like if you like something like Outlander, for instance, I think this would be your cup of tea. Maybe, hopefully. And your main characters in this book, you have a young girl named Tatiana. She is Russian, and then you have an American soldier named Alexander who enters her life, and all hell breaks loose, all chaos. And it's funny that I have 2 books on this list that take place during the siege of Leningrad, because this book is very focused on the siege of Leningrad as well. And yeah, just the fraught relationship that occurs between Tatiana and Alexander as war and chaos are raining down upon them, and this relationship that they have that perhaps maybe they shouldn't be having, you know, that kind of might seem inappropriate at times, but oh boy, is it great. I love it. And I need somebody to adapt this, like maybe Stars, you know, because I was saying that about Outlander. If you love Outlander, you might like this. I think Stars, since they tend to focus a lot on like women's stories, especially like historical stuff, I think Stars would really navigate towards this and like it. At number 2, I don't have a particular book, but I have a particular author, and that is Silvia Moreno Garcia. Yes, I'm holding up Mexican Gothic, which Mexican Gothic has not had an adaptation yet at all. I think back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, Hulu got the rights to Mexican Gothic, and Hulu was like, yeah, we'll make a series out of this. But yeah, we're in the year of 2024, you guys, and I have not heard a damn thing from Hulu about what they're doing with Mexican Gothic, if it's ever going to come out. But yeah, the reason I'm going just more broadly and saying Silvia Moreno Garcia, Silvia Moreno Garcia has published quite a number of books in the last several years, and they've all been very incredibly popular and very well received, and I'm just really surprised none of her books have been turned into adaptations just yet, especially considering the very diverse nature of her books, because all of her books, for the most part, feature heroines who are Mexican, and a lot of times her books have been taking place like somewhere in Mexico, you know. So like I said, I'm just very shocked considering kind of the very diverse nature, the diverse places, the diverse characters. I'm just kind of surprised no one has jumped all over books by Silvia Moreno Garcia to adapt. But yeah, my number 1 book that I want to see adapted so badly is definitely Mexican Gothic. Dear God. Hulu, where is it? You said you bought the rights to it, but where is it? And at number 1, doing the very same thing like I just did with Silvia Moreno Garcia, I'm going broadly with Ruth Ware, books by Ruth Ware. Where are the adaptations of books by Ruth Ware, for crying out loud? Dear God. I have every single one of Ruth Ware's books, and I have read every single one of them except for her very first one, weirdly enough. But what's that one called? In a dark wood, I think that one's called. I own that book, but for whatever reason I have never got around to reading it. But yeah, every single other book by Ruth Ware I have gotten around to, and I've really enjoyed and liked. And yeah, Ruth Ware's books are primarily like mystery thrillers, so following usually young women, and they find themselves in certain types of situations where something happens, something bizarre and crazy. Like this book right here, The Woman in Cabin 10, which I would love. This is like one of my top favorite Ruth Ware books. I would love to see this book adapted. Like in this book, there's a woman who gets on like a luxury cruise liner, and the girl that's in the cabin next to her, she just goes missing one day, and everybody's like, "What girl are you talking about? There's no girl in the cabin next to yours, So there's a big mystery that comes from that, The woman in cabin 10. Who is she? Where did she go? Because yeah, our main character knows that she saw her, So yeah, you have like that type of book, and yeah, you have like another book where a girl, she's set to receive some sort of inheritance, and then you have like another book where a girl, she's like a nanny for some kids, and yeah, there's another one where there's a bunch of work business people who are all together like at a snow resort. They get stuck and held in by an avalanche, or a snowstorm. So yeah, all of her books have really good, interesting premises, and I want there to be like a Ruth Ware anthology series, like either on Netflix or Hulu or HBO Max or something like that. Her books would make for a great, like, the Ruth Ware universe, or whatever you would want to call it. And yeah, each season could just adapt one of her books. I would be here for it. I would love it. So yeah, I'm just really shocked none of Ruth Ware's books have been turned into anything yet, considering how popular she is. So you guys, those are the top 5 books or authors, however you want to think about it, books that have absolutely no sort of adaptation, whether it's a movie adaptation or a TV adaptation or whatever. These are 5 books that I am just desperate to see adapted at some point in my life, and I'm just shocked that they've not been turned into anything. So you guys, in the comments below, do you agree with my choices, or do you have some other good picks that you want to share with me? So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.